Sorry, this is madness. We talked about debate now, and okay, I will repeat my old joke that you may know. Do you know, when people invite me to a dialogue, do you know this old joke of mine? I always tell them, I love dialogues, but they should look like late Plato's dialogues. Yeah. Read them. You know how they look? It's one guy talks all the time, and the other guy, just so every 10 minutes, interrupts him with, my God, Socrates, so it is. And so on. So please, it was confused and so on, but please, at least, let's pretend that this is a dialogue. Ask me some questions before I drop that.
I was just gonna. Well, thank you for the dialogue. But I just want.
But it's not clear to me now who is the boss. I'm a Leninist tyrant. I say democracy, yes, if you know who is the boss. Is the boss you or the other guy?
It's the other guy. It's always the other guy.
It's always the other guy.
Yeah, it's always someone else.
That's the true Stalinist formula. You know, you do all the dirty job, but you must have another guy to be truly responsible. Okay, let's go on, please.
I was just going to ask, so like obviously there's a dynamic between like what you're describing in terms of like global events, catastrophes, and your own thinking in terms of communism and philosophy. I'm just wondering how like how you're like updating your thought. Like you recently released an introduction for Tupinamba's book, Capitalism or Psychoanalysis and Desire. Rather.
But do you know, sorry to interrupt you, but do you know why I love that book? He did something that I wasn't able or was too afraid to do. Mm-hmm. He directly addresses the key question of not only in our today's enemies, Jacques-Alain Miller, but where something was wrong in the basic sense of political ideology, already in Lacan and even already in Freud. He asks very radical questions, but not from some kind of, external social perspective immanently. He is a very good Lacanian. And just maybe this will make you glad he knows this. I have a text which is 4 times longer, where I have also some critical questions, debate with Tupinambá, and I didn't want to do this as an introduction to this book, but now we are putting something new together where this debate will be expanded. I think it's a phenomenal book, a book which asks the right questions, political questions, because the enigma of all of us, let's call us left-wing Lacanians, left-wing Marxist Lacanians, was how could Miller have done it in the last 10, 15 years? He was even directly included into propaganda electoral for Sarkozy. He is fanatical against any left, which is a little bit more radical. For example, those who criticized Macron from the left, in a purely Stalinist way, Miller accused them of helping Le Pen. And he coined the term Le Peno-Trotskyist, like Trotskyite leftist helping the fascist enemy, and so on. It's a typical Stalinist procedure. I am the true left, so if you attack me, you are objectively serving the fascist enemy, and so on and so on. But how was this possible? Not because the insight of Tupinambá is that this is not simply his liberal, Miller's leanings orientation. There is something wrong, at the practical level of how psychoanalytic organization functions and its role in class division and so on. And here Tupinambá does an excellent job. For example, it made me so sad how Miller in Latin America, where they always had some social tensions, he prohibited members of his school to participate in any emancipatory movements. And he gave two reasons, which are both fake. One is, our main goal is to have a society in which psychoanalysis is possible as a practice. And we see that whenever there is social disorder, psychoanalysis cannot fully function. You need minimal civil order so that you can tell to your patient, you know, next week 2 times at 2 p.m. and so on, all that stuff. So this is the first conformist reasoning. The second is very weird one. The idea is that whenever there is social unrest, anti-Semitism grows. So for this, we should not support any radical movement because it always generates anti-Semitism. Now, my cynical answer to this one is, please look at Lenin's Politburo. It was the only moment in the Western, or not even Christian societies, where members of the ruling body, forget democracy, Soviet Union under Lenin was run by the Politburo, less than 10 people. The majority were Jews, you know. So if anything, you cannot say that Bolsheviks were anti-Semitic, you know. But what I'm saying is that how, under the pretense of these excuses, we just want to save analysis, conditions for analysis, how they get into this, how should I put it, liberal deadlock. And the underlying problem is even a worse one. Lacan has a wonderful theory of how psychoanalysis works. But the problem is that then psychoanalysis is not just I am an analyst, I have patients. Analysts also form societies. And there, the worst patriarchal terror returned with a vengeance. Lacan fought terribly against this, honestly, but he failed. It was all one. Lacan had wonderful formulas to fight this. For example, Lacan said that in his seminars every week, that he's not the master, he's the hysteric. He's the analyst who is improvising topics, and the public there, 1,000 people squeezed into a hall, are his collective analysts. And he said, I speak as an analyst in my écrit writings, which are practically unreadable. But Lacan admitted that in his writings, he just gives opaque, ambiguous formulas. He consciously plays the role of a clown. And it's up to you, ordinary analysts, reading Lacan, to bring out if there is anything worth in it. So Lacan did enjoy power, but he built in so many mechanisms of irony and so on that it wasn't power. While today with Miller, no, there is no irony. Power is clear, so many unwritten rules and so on. The failure of an organization is terrifying. And this also, as Tupinambá nicely points out, has wonderful class consequences. Did you read his book where he says how all Lacanians, of course, analysts, in Brazil, like to appear with sympathy for the workers, for the poor. So they give once or twice a week, one afternoon where ordinary people who cannot pay come to them. Yeah, but what's the trick? The basic Lacanian premise, very democratic, is that there is no difference between ordinary analysis to help you if you are crazy or psychic troubles, and so-called didactic analysis, when you are analyzed to become analyst. An analysis brought to the end makes you the analyst. But if you divide your patients into two groups, those who are ready to come to you twice a week for years paying, and those poor guys whom you, out of mercy, receive 2-3 times for free, it's clear that they will never become analysts. They will not have neither the time, money, abilities to go to the end. You just give them a couple of advices for free. So it's a wonderful mechanism how mask, even although it has this form of, let's make it possible for poor guys to do it, it's so, how nonetheless, formally already, self-reproduction is limited to upper classes. And I was told that this is the case, especially in Brazil, where, as I was told, much more than in other Latin American countries, psychoanalysis as a group, psychoanalysts, is limited to not even upper middle classes, but many of them even upper classes. And some guy there gave me a formula, nicely, that in a rich, mega rich Brazilian family, you have, let's say, 3 children at least. The first one takes over the family company. The second one becomes lawyer or politician. One takes the company so that company does not split. And then the third one usually becomes a doctor. And then one variation there is maybe psychoanalyst. This is social origin of the large majority of psychoanalysts. And it's something obscene. I once gave a talk for them in Sao Paulo more than 20 years ago. First, I gave a talk about politics, psychoanalysis, Trotsky, and so on in a university. Wonderful. Then I was shocked. They told me, you must give a short speech there because they are, they give money, they told me, like they financed your trip here, you have to. And I was put into a different world. It wasn't even about Brazil. It was about elements of psychoanalysis in late writings of Virginia Woolf, What about that phrase in that novel? Absolutely no link with any minimal even social problems or whatever. They love this type of Lacanian analysis of culture where you make a text. Isn't that gesture that he cut short that chapter symptomatic, and so on. It's very sad. In Argentina, it's more complex because when there was this second military dictatorship, for some mysterious reasons, psychoanalysts were even under harsher pressure than communists. It was a very perverse situation. At that point in the 70s, or when later, when there was the coup d'etat against Isabella Perón, Perón's wife, it was the time when, because of intervention in Afghanistan, whatever, Carter and United States prohibited export of grain to Soviet Union. So Soviet Union moved to Argentina, which meant military dictatorship, Argentina. So what to do with the Communist Party there, which was subordinated pro-Soviet Union? What should it do? They had to follow Moscow's line. The claim was that the military dictatorship was a progressive bourgeois dictatorship. With all they were doing, you know. So it's a paradox, an anti-communist dictatorship, but it was much safer to be a communist than a psychoanalyst. Many psychoanalysts, where many psychoanalysts were left Peronist. No, even now you have the line running. But nonetheless, so even now this is the big tension in all, I followed the situation in Bolivia, where I really had friends. I knew Linera, my God, he's a serious theorist. And Linera also told me how on the one hand you have these pure apolitical psychoanalysts, you know, who say, oh, we don't want to get messed in politics, blah, 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 which means they're against them, no? Against Evo Morales. But then you get many progressive psychoanalysts who are serious psychoanalysts, but at the same time see social mediation, social conditions of, you know. And so, yes, that book, it affected me deeply because it's not my problem directly, because we, the Slovene gang, were for a long time under pressure from Paris, from Miller Group, to do something in Slovenia, in the sense of become practicing psychoanalysts, no? Then I used first as an excuse some of my standard jokes, you know. My first joke, obvious one, was, look at me with all my nervous tics. Would you really trust me as an analyst? The second joke I used is, look, I talk all the time. Do you really think that I would tolerate a guy there on divan talking more than half a minute without me interrupting him and me talking all the time? And then when Miller became serious, we simply let him know, sorry, no, we don't want to be practicing psychoanalysis. Then Miller moved into this more aggressive line, but you know, Lacan is a theorist of psychoanalytic practice. You cannot do this and be a true Lacanian. And then we thought about our position and adopted now a radical shift in party line, where we claim that, yes, Lacan is not a philosopher, but that's not his advantage. That's his failure. You can exactly see where he doesn't raise the philosophical question strongly enough. So now, without shame, we define ourselves as philosophers. Sorry, do one more and then, sorry, I will have to disappear before I drop that.
I just along that line.
Sorry?
Along that line.
Yeah.
It feels like last time we spoke, you mentioned a kind of departure from Lacan, which is potentially signaled in Tupinamba's book as well. But it looks like to me that the Owl of Minerva is sort of departing from Lacan, and Lacan is now properly a philosopher with you guys. Is this?
Yeah, but I don't. Maybe, but you know, nonetheless, you know, our philosophy is not a philosophy like others. It's a pretty crazy philosophy. It's a philosophy which is critical towards the classical Lacanian tradition as well as towards this post-Hegelian traditions. For us, the guy is still Hegel. And you know what makes me really glad, I will tell you, that we are not alone. Independently of us, there are now so many. This really makes me happy because usually we were attacked as, oh, anti-feminism. But all all. Okay, a great majority of good books on Hegel are now written by women. Even, for example, it began with Gillian Rose, Hegel Contra Sociology, 40 years ago. Excellent book. Then it was Beatrice Longuenesse, Hegel and the Critique of Metaphysics. Then you get Catherine Malabou, The Future of Hegel. Then you get Rebecca Comey, another radical leftist, to prove this to you. You know where I met her? When we were in Ramallah at the Palestinian Congress on Walter Benjamin. This was an ingenious move. To say, let's do a conference on Walter Benjamin in Ramallah. And it was wonderful. All the Palestinian theoreticians came there talking with great respect. And then there are others. It's my own colleague, Alenka Zupancic, Lacanian, Hegelian. It's John Kobjek. Then there are two now that I discovered only now. One is Angelica Nuzzo, who did a very good book, Reading Hegel Obliquely, through Samuel Beckett, through Herman Melville, Billy Budd, and so on. And the latest one, okay, she is still active from Puerto Rico, but she teaches now in Oregon and elsewhere. It's a lady's name, Rocio Zambrana. She did a book, Hegel's Theory of Intelligibility, which is an excellent reading of Hegel, not as this great idea. See, the great idealist, you get a system, you know everything. By this idea, how Hegel doesn't paint some necessary rational progress, how Hegel's dialectical process has moments of contingent reversals and so on. And isn't it nice to have a lady who does excellent reading of Hegel's logic, most difficult parts, combining them with incredibly forceful analysis of neo-colonialist exploitation, Latin America, Puerto Rico, and so on. And now I will add something for which I will be lynched, and maybe you also. And he, on the top of it, she is a very nice, sexually attractive lady. It's prohibited to say this. All I can say is that I read her book before I saw her image. You know? I'm pure here, you know. But what I'm saying is that there is something in this, that almost all the best books on Hegel in the last, there are a couple of exceptions, maybe mine, there is a Gerard Lebrun book, but women are today the big Hegelians. That's nice. It makes me very glad. And incidentally, not this Jane Austen type of women. That's why I never liked Jane Austen. She has this conservative wisdom. Don't follow too much your love. Find the realistic way. I'm a hardline romantic here. I like Emily Bronte, Wuthering Heights, you know, fuck wildly or whatever. I don't like this romance. But what I'm saying is that it's this is the best proof of how, of the feminist undercurrent of the modern European philosophy. Then we, my friends, looked back. Descartes cogito. You know how popular was this with women at his time? There was a whole circle, of course, of educated women, but they said wonderfully, we like cogito, because cogito is not male, it doesn't have sex, there is a place for us in it. Immediately they perceived in the very abstraction of cogito feminist potential. And there were already some pupils of Descartes who then directly developed in detail this feminist, again, potential of Descartes. So I think this idea with some feminists that all modern philosophy from Descartes on is patriarchal male philosophy, no, it's absolutely not a claim. It's because, you know, patriarchy is part of your social identity, and all transcendental thought has this distinction between subject and soul. Soul is the seat of your inner life and all that, and there, of course, there you have, in a Jungian way, masculine, feminine tendencies, but this is not subject. Subject is neutral. Subject is an abyss of void. And the big result is that the Cartesian subject is feminine. If you interpret feminine position in a Lacanian pure formal way, that man is more reified as woman. Woman is this pure void, no identity. Man, I hate life. Man is a woman which thinks that she really exists. You know, man thinks she has a certain moral foundation and so on. That's why I like, this is not an anti-feminist cliché, that women are hysterics. You know what hysteria means? It means you don't have a fixed identity. As Lacan pointed out, hysteria is the elementary form of the critique of ideology. Because ideology is in its basic form interpellation. Ideology tells you, you're a pupil, you're a master, you're a teacher, you're a woman. But the basic hysterical question is, but why are you saying that I am that? I don't want to be that. This is hysteria. Hysteria is a provocative question to the master. And this is the basic feminine position wants to amuse my students. I even referred to them and said that the most elementary form that you encounter this if you are a couple with a woman. You know, when a woman typically at certain point after you declare love asks you, but tell me, why do you love me? You know, like, why am I an object? And of course, this is a tricky question because it's an impossible question. You know, the moment you know the reason why do you love me, it's not love. It's just objective assessment, you know. It's just, oh, you have beautiful legs, you have beautiful, sorry for obscenity, vagina, you have beautiful breasts, you smile nicely. Okay, let's establish a list. This one has, this is not love. Love is something paradoxical. Love is not, I love you because you have, sorry for the vulgarity, beautiful legs, let's say. Love is, in true love, it's that only through love you notice that your beloved legs are beautiful. You know, for others they can be ordinary legs or head or smile or whatever. Love is performative. And this is much more the feminine domain. This is even, at the clinical level, I learned something wonderful from France. You know that many psychoanalysts today have patients who are there just for fashionable reasons. It's part of your social identity to have an analyst. You know, like, oh, you don't have an analyst, who do you think you are? And so my friends told me that when they wanted an analyst, their friend immediately asked them, sorry, but do you need this just as a, for your social status, or do you really have trouble? If you said, I really have trouble, you always got a woman as the analyst. They are supposed to be much better, you know. And from women, I talked with some of them, you also get a much better realistic assessment. Like I spoke with some women about problems of psychosis, and they gave me a very good pessimist assessment. They told me that if you really have a hard psychotic, no, you cannot do miracles and really cure him. There are only two options. One is chemical drugs, biochemistry, pills, whatever, but this doesn't solve anything. Only if you are violent, you get half that and so on. There is something then which is difficult to achieve, but it works. They don't cure you. They just offer you superficial rituals, which even if you remain a madman in your brain, it enables you, at least for others, to function normally. And we should laugh at this. It's a great step for the guy. So that if you are perspicuous, you see that the guy is crazy. But it's a great thing for him, somehow he communicates, That's all you can do. You cannot do more. I like this pessimist, realistic approaches, Sorry, finish with one more short and then I drop that. And then, I don't know what will you do with this, but please, I need you as a censor, cut it short and so on, use only. You know what you should do? My favorite terror. Take my statement and make it an answer to another question so that I will appear as an idiot that I didn't get it, That's how you should treat enemies,
Yeah.
When I was young, I learned this. There were some French journalists who treated like this, who made on TV this kind of a comical report. They asked certain questions, big politicians, and they got answers. But then they replaced their questions with a much more obscene question. So that, for example, I remember Georges Marchais, at that point, when I was in Paris half a century ago, General Secretary of the Communist Party, was asked in this manipulation, if the members of parliament are tired, don't you think that there should be small rooms with bed in the background of the parliamentary seats, the big hall, where you can make quick sex to relax you, to be better, and so on, no? And the guy answered, not knowing to what he answers, this is a very important question for progressive politics. Central Committee will debate it. Do something like this with me.
Maybe just on a very formal note, what's next? What's in the works?
What's in the works? Many things. One is I am just finishing a book with my two friends, Agon Hamza and Frank Ruda, on reading Hegel. There it will be a very long text. I will try to clarify my position with this new liberal democratic readings of Hegel, which means Brandom, Pipin, no? Those who think this mutual recognition and so on, that's it. Also, Judith Butler goes into this. The lesson of Hegel is recognition, blah. So it will be a long text, like almost 100 pages, but a detailed, systematic account, and then connected to my radical reading of Hegel. Then, on the top of it, I will another, a little bit shorter book. The title will probably something like Living and Dying in a Topsy-Turvy World. The idea is we are living in this crazy world. Everything goes wrong, crisis, and what to do. And very traditionally, the first chapter will be Marx ecology, ecologically problem. I will react to that very good Kohei Staitos book, Eco-Socialism. You know, very intelligent people trying to redeem Marxism for ecology. and you learn very interesting data of how deep into ecology late Marx was. Like, do you know that he was studying like crazy some German scientists who tried what industrial agriculture does to the chemical components on the fields of the, so I will try to redeem Hegel there, that Hegel is not an idealist who think Earth doesn't matter, that Hegel took extremely seriously this idea that nature is outside the idea and it's totally independent there, and nature doesn't serve humans, that Hegel has an unexpected humanist potential. That the second one will be, I plan to put in this, the chapter on Tupinambá, the politics of psychoanalysis, what went wrong with Freudo-Marxism and so on. Then there will be a third chapter on the notion of surplus enjoyment. I want to elaborate it systematically, how this functions in today's politics, ideology, populism, and so on. I will include there my ferocious critique of Handmaid's Tale as pure liberal propaganda, as an example of what Frederick Jameson called the nostalgia for the present. You know, the task of that book is, by painting this horrible new fundamentalist Christian universe, to make us feel good, oh, thanks God, we are not yet there, we're living still this wonderful, well, it's the same mistake as those who focus too much on Trump. Sorry, Trump didn't fall from the sky. Trump emerged from our liberal societies. How, why? So this will be the third chapter. And then the fourth chapter, the most problematic, I want to take as a starting point, you know, where are we now? I will publish some text. Now, these days, literally. Paris Commune, 150 years. Paris Commune was from March 18th till May 28th. And it was the first case of workers taking power and this idea, the democracy from below and so on. And I will try to develop this in detail. No? In the sense of where are the limits of this? That we cannot return simply. That's what I miss with big leftists today. You know, they all expect this wonderful moment of unity where Muslims who feel oppressed and LGBT women will bring them together, and black students and white unemployed workers will bring them together. And of course, you never arrive at that point, and I'm getting tired of this. Just wait, there will be unity. How to change this? And it will be a thesis, well meant, but very provocatively. Probably the title will be a plea for good progressive alienation. That, you know, it's then that I'm suspicious of, as I said at the beginning, of this idea, small societies where everything is transparent. No, we will never arrive at that point. This idea that we will all be active. There are magic points when this happens. When you have like Syriza in Greece or now in Chile, this lasts for 2-3 months. Then life returns to normal. And that's the most difficult moment. How will people feel the difference? I don't like the big 1 million people, we were there, all solidarity, fuck it. What interests me is how will everyday life be different for ordinary people. So I will try to engage with this more. And you know what? It will be amusing because I will use some quotes from popular TV what kind of leaders we needed. Maybe this will amuse you. Two TV references. One is from that series. My wife watched it and I was watching it a little bit. New Amsterdam. Okay, what interests me is that at the end, towards the end, when a guy wants to be the leader of that hospital, but this type of open, let's listen to everybody and so on. And somebody tells him a wonderfully wise thing. He says, a real leader should be the one who never can sleep well. Because sometimes you have to make such tough decisions, you know. No medicines for everybody. You have to sacrifice some people. No money to cure that. And this wonderful phrase, if you sleep well, you cannot be a leader. You know, true leader involves such tough ethical decisions, you know. You cannot say, a theoretic would say, I refuse to decide here. This is bourgeois trap. No, but as a leader, and Lenin always was aware of this, as a leader, you have to make tough decisions. And then the other thing to shock you, did you, all of you, see that series? I mentioned it a couple of times lately. I know it was first the usual CIA propaganda stuff, but then the last seasons it got better. Homeland. It's interesting how the first 4 seasons were the usual US propaganda, but then it gets more and more ambiguous, and at the end, the heroine, played by Claire Danes, emigrates to Russia, today's Putin's Russia, falls in love there with her previous KGB or FSB now opponent, lives happily with him, but secretly still informs CIA. And what I try to rehabilitate, I claim that this is a typical feminine position. Women are not stupid. I give all for my love. That, and I read a conversation with the scenario writer and learned that he did this on purpose. He said, this is a type of a woman who is passionately in love, but had at the same time a compulsion to betray her partner. Otherwise, he would have too much control. And he said, this is for her a perfect, fully satisfying relationship. And I love it also. I think it's you, this is what gives you the space of autonomy, you know. I love, or the woman, I love that guy passionately, but no, he will not hold me perfectly, you know. I will go into all this stuff, but it will not be another book on Hegel, but what I will also have a lot there, a whole subchapter on Rammstein, you know, my favorite German, the harsh one. I will propose reading or 4 or 5 Angel. Isn't this, do you know his angel? Is that we try to look angels, we don't see them, and then a voice sings like angel. It's horrible for us. We are up there on the edge of the sky. We would like to come down to earth, and then the refrain is, please God, don't make us an angel, and so on. That one, then Dalai Lama, the best song, I think there, I will do a little bit of theological-critical reading of Rammstein. But I published too quickly. This book, maybe it will appear, where are we now? Not this year, probably beginning of 22. This year it's enough if that substantial text on Hegel appears, and maybe I have enough stuff, another of this collection of political texts. I didn't yet decide. Maybe it will be Pandemic 3, because I have a lot of new stuff there, or generally some of this stuff about Trump and so on, you know. Like, it's wonderful what is happening now. I admire them, Trump people. Did you watch that nightmarish defense of that crazy woman, Sidney Powell? You don't know what happened. He was the one who accused that company Dominion of making fake accounting machines which counts votes for Trump as votes for Biden. Now the company is prosecuting her, of course, for 1 billion and so on. And you know what's her official defense? That what I was saying is so crazy and obviously false that nobody could have taken this seriously. So I cannot be prosecuted for defamation. This is such a wonderful case of this post-truth politics, you know. You advocate something, you trigger a whole political movement, and then you say, but wait a minute, you cannot take this seriously, and so on. Very interesting ideological phenomenon. Okay, let me say hello and manipulate me nicely.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us.
Where were you? Where were you? Where is who? I want to locate you. You who said thank you so much, you are?
I'm Peter.
Yeah, but where? Where?
Oh, where? Toronto.
Ah, you are Toronto?
Yeah.
I'm also in Toronto. I'm Jacob.
The two of you are Toronto, and the other two, one is Berlin.
I'm in a small town near Frankfurt.
Sorry, Frankfurt and the. We are three. Yeah.
That's three.
Yeah.
Sorry. How did you, the Frankfurt guy, join them?
We met in Canada. We're all friends from Canada.
Ah. Oh my God. Oh my God. That's so nice. And how is your podcast or whatever doing?
It's going well. I think we've had a lot of fun the last year. We've been reading a lot of your books, and we've.
But tell me something else that interests me.
Yeah.
Is it pure amateur, or do you get some money?
No, we're amateurs. I mean, there are some people who pay for our extra episodes, but we're doing this of our own, free volition, our own interest.
And it's so sad that you cannot get at least some money or what.
Yeah, that's how it goes.
It's okay. It's purely amateur though, for the love of it. Yeah.
Yeah, but I like this late capitalist tricks that it's purely amateur. You just cover your expenses, you say. And then I'm sorry, your expense is to be in some of the wealthiest hotels in Toronto and so on. These tricks, I love them. Okay, guys, it was nice.
Thanks so much.
Have a nice time. No? Okay. I'm leaving you now. Bye-bye.